Okay, so what I thought we'll start with, sometimes what I've been avoiding is this whole area, so let's crack on with that, shall we? And then, because what we'll do is we'll do a couple of layers here, just to sort of define generally that shadow, and then we can work on other areas while that dries slightly, and then jump back in there for the finish. So I'm going to, well, you know, I like to mix on the paper rather than in the palette. Oh look, I just splattered magenta on my paper. Nice. Let's see. That doesn't ever happen. It really doesn't. But I've just got little dots of magenta I need to get rid of. There we go. Just off screen there, but they were there. Okay, so I'm going to do the lovely combination of probably magenta and lemon. So we've got the lemon there already, so I'm just going to pop on some magenta and really see how that reacts with our lemon. So I've got some lemon on here so we can see it will turn into sort of a nice warm peachy colour, and that magenta's okay, I think, as a shade to start. Okay, sometimes it's good just to, I find I get caught up in the details, and sometimes it's really good to just take the photograph back to almost like it's a big point. It's full point really, so that I can just see the overall things that need to be done. A bit more overall view can help sometimes. And so this is sort of a bit, some of these parts here are a little bit shaped and random, and sort of texture. You see some of the lines on this area here, the other parts get a little bit more uniform, but let me show you that. I'll just show you that for a quick moment there. So if you see, what I'm going to be doing is I've just picked up a couple of the lines there as well that will help sort of show some of that highlight, a ridge highlight there, and you'll see that in the video. That's so some of the lines I will be including like that. And those are sort of taking into finally using those little lines that we drew here and there. I'll just put a few in, but I'm not going to try and do too many. It's just a sort of a few little spots of colour and texture, but then we'll just get back into deepening the actual shadow shape. And there's quite a strong sort of shape in there that we'll make a little bit darker later. And let's see, the colour is still, well, it's reasonably strong. I might make it a tiny bit lighter. It's not very light. Magenta dries darker, remember, so. And I'm starting from this end. Again, I'll just do a few. And then just fill in that block of colour that we can see there. Now, what I might do, let's see. Yep. I'll just soften some of those edges there. And it's quite good to actually move about. Actually, you can move magenta around a little. I mean, it is staining, but you can still manipulate it in this, just to make sure those lines aren't too thick, really, because I haven't tried to get a really super thin brush out. So, okay, where else have we got our shadows? Obviously goes up there, and we'll do some. Oh, who was telling me about last week about somebody was saying that one of their sort of art teachers was saying to make sure you erase the pencil lines, because I did have a little thought on that, which was just that I do soften my pencil lines as I go. I mean, I don't. The strongest they are is in the very beginning, and then. And if it's a place that's going to have a lot of colour, then I'm not worried about it. But if it's a place that gets quite light, like here, I mean, I do sort of start taking them out as well. Not, oh, you can still see some of them, not completely or anything, but as you get more and more layers, it can get harder to remove them if they're still quite strong. Sort of just have them soft enough so I can use them as guides. Unless, of course, you want your pencil marks, which I think you can. I mean, ultimately you can do whatever you like. But we all know watercolour gets drawn on first, so, and I know a lot of art incorporates pencil markings as well in different things. There's a little, just do a little bit there. Okay, and there's a little bit watery that wash. So now we just need to try and do some of this not quite that bright. I'll just take a little bit of that wash off my brush. And we'll strengthen some of those lines back. And when we lose them a little bit, they're still there, I can still see them, but we'll strengthen them back up a little bit later. There's a few, and do as many or as little as you like, there's a few little lines that are, and a few ridges, shall we say, that can be a little bit more careful leaving. And if you notice on these parts that have sort of some of the lines that do come up, and if you do leave them for sort of ridged highlight effect that you see here, just notice how the shape of the shadow is. The shape of the shadow is quite a sort of a little V line. From one ridge to the next, it sort of ends in a V shape. Once you have a look at your photo, you'll see what I mean. Okay, slightly intense but wet, so we'll leave it at that for the moment and go into some other parts where we let that dry, so we can add a little bit more colour. Okay. Okay, so I think I'll just work on some of this area around here. That definitely has to be as strong as this side as well. So let's have a look at that. I'll just grab another photo. Ready? Okay. Now there are some, there's a reasonable little bit of pink that comes in here, so I'm grabbing a magenta. Just a suppose a mid-strength, whatever that is. And let's grab a water brush. Let's see. Try and do a few shapes in here that we see. I don't know how you all paint, but I quite often just paint in the block shape and then let my water brush do all the blending for me. Just doing this. Yeah. Oh.
I lost you.
that's probably because I didn't stop speaking. I wasn't saying anything, I don't think, of interest.
Grandma was bored.
Okay, so those are just a few shapes I see pop in. Pretty basic, but we'll. Oh, look, there's a creature crawling on our painting. I know. So I tend to leave them because, you know, if you try and shoo them away and you smush them, that's not any good either. So I might blow them away.
Gosh.
It's only, I don't know what he is. He's not an ant, but it's got something big going. Come on. There you go. Took a quick trip. What else? I can just go a little bit further up on this, I think. And we can do some here, which is just, here's quite dark and it's quite a straight line on this side, so we want to keep that and we can blend the other side. And then that straight line, if it's too straight, we can blend it later if it's too sort of crisp, but for now, I'll just re-angle it slightly so it goes down here a little bit. Okay, that's better. So this is still just magenta. But once we go over it with Indian yellow or some such thing, it'll just become a nice sort of slightly peachy area. Oh, he's back. I can see him on the corner of my paper. Really?
He's hungry.
I know, he's something. He's very persistent. Here we go. Actually, this part here can be darker as well. Okay. So let's move on to some, you know what, before we move on to anything I need to do one thing. Tidy up this little line here. I want quite a nice straight line and a crisp one. There we go. It's better. Okay. So now I'm going to grab the magenta and I'm going to just have a little look and see how we feel about doing a little bit of dry brush over on this left hand side, because it's quite light already and it's not getting any darker really, it's going to stay quite light. So now's the time to add something of detail but really lightly. Oops. Because I don't want to go too much darker here, so I need to make sure it's a little bit in the final stage for that really. Okay, let's make sure. So if you have a look at your photo, it's kind of on an angle, this area. So, and it does come down, it sort of comes down and captures all of this pink strip in here, so we want to do that as well. So this is where you get to do that whole thing on your palette and really be relatively awful to your brushes. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Nice, like little splay of lots of little hair, and it's just a combination of getting enough of the wash on the brush that you can have a line, but not too much that it sort of clumps together and then starts painting. And that's just a little bit of practice really, and even for me I'm constantly trying to sort of readjust it. I see that it goes, the angle goes along like this and down, so I'm going to start, and you can start anywhere you like, and just see if it's soft enough for me. And this is, you really want to practice on a piece of paper. And sort of get things going. Now, but what is not hard is, you know, you can always come back through with your water brush and soften anything that turned out a little bit less than desirable. But I'm just doing really kind of nice feathery strokes and the angle that we need it to be. And if some of those, if the brush gets a little bit dry and you just, well actually what I like is when I miss a lot of the paper and you're just getting random, more random strokes. I like that a lot more. Let me show you. So if I did a dark colour, let's just pick a dark colour. There we go. So that's the wash intensity, and if I do my little smudge, let's see what we get. It's quite surprising. You just don't get a lot of colour coming through once you've done that to your brush, even though that was quite a strong wash and on your brush. When you, if I just do this, put it together, there is colour there, but once you splay it out, it seems to really soften up a lot. So that's one thing. So your wash can be darker than what you require it to be in the end when you're doing this, because it seems to come in much softer. The other thing I like is that if I can get it where you can see it. Let's see, how to get it. Not this dark, but just for purposes of you seeing it on the video. If you can get it where the brush, let me look at another spot. Like that. So for instance, see how that isn't, it's taking in just a couple of lines, in fact not as many as you think, and it's missing a little bit, and some is a little bit thicker over there and a thinner, and these white bits of paper and things like that. That's all really great. That's all what I prefer. I would like it to be very random and very much like if there's one line that's a little bit stronger, and so you can see through there where there's a little bit of the green wash underneath showing through where it missed completely on the paper, and then you've got your lines of colour. So that allows things underneath to show through, and I'm not looking for, you know, like a thick coverage. So that's how that goes. So just like that, if you have a sort of a stronger edge and then just tiny lines and maybe another stronger edge, that's okay. I like that because then you can sort of just go over it like this, and get all these different lines happening, which are nice. So that's not the colour we're using here, but that was just something to show you a little bit stronger so you could see on the video. So let's go back to our wash of magenta, a very soft wash of magenta, because it does dry darker. Let's try that again. Let's see how soft we've got it so far. It's probably a bit too much.